Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this really beautiful and unique ceramic platter. First of all, you need some sort of tray or platter. It could be any shape, it doesn't have to be a rectangle. It can be an oval or any kind of circle shape or anything like that. You're going to need a couple of very thin pieces of paper to line the platter with. So I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to line the platter with those thin pieces of paper. You could also use like a saran wrap or something like that. This paper will be just fine on this though. You have a canvas on your table. You're going to get a rolling pin. You're going to need some water. You're going to need a needle tool at some point. Something that is like paper towels or some sort of spongy thing, brush or sponge, and possibly like a big brush like that. All right. You're going to press down and make sure that you start with a big enough piece of clay that's going to fit your tray. And whatever shape you're going to do, you want to make sure you have enough clay for that. So I'm doing this rectangle shape, so I want to roll it out into a rectangle. So pressing down first so that I can get it pretty flat. And then when you start to roll this, you're rolling from the center out. So make sure that you're really pushing from the center out, your hands here, and you're just pushing out. Don't roll off the edge. And same thing, back, and just keep going. So I'm going to flip, turn from the center out, and that's what you want to keep doing until you have it nice and flat. Okay, that looks good. I got it to about 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little thinner. And now I'm going to take my tray and I'm going to put it on top, and I'm going to cut this out. And I don't actually care, like, do you see how this doesn't, you can see how that doesn't really fit on there? I don't even care about that, because I am going to build it up a little bit on the edges with some coils. That's what's going to make it really unique. So I'm just going to zip my needle tool around the edge of this, and then I'm lining the tray so it doesn't stick to the plastic. Okay, I'm going to take these off. You can use this extra for the coils. Put that over to the side. Before I actually put it on there, I'm going to put my name on the bottom. So use a pencil tip to put your name on the bottom. And be careful, don't go through it. So put your name, and I always like to put the year. All right, I'm gonna flip this over onto my lined tray. So here we go. You're gonna pick it up really carefully. Don't pick it up by one hand. And then you're just gonna place it on the top of this. Now, you can see I kind of flopped it over a little bit. I can use my papers to move this and get it into the spot that I want. Now I could have a really nice, just normal tray, just like this, if I just smoothed it out a lot, and I could do that. But I do want to get some of these edges sort of cut off. I'm going to show you how I'm going to actually add some nice coils. So I'm going to cut. And I don't know if I want the cuts exactly the same, but if you do, you can take that cut and you can kind of put it back on the edge, and you can cut again in that same shape that you cut the first one in. Okay, I'm going to cut some of that off. All right, so now the shape is a little different. It doesn't have that same rectangle that the tray was made out of, the plastic tray. All right, I'm going to take a paper towel, wet it, and when I wet it, I kind of put it in the water, and then I just squish a little bit. I don't want to have it super sopping wet, but you definitely want to have it wet. So I'm going to go around, and I'm going to actually get this to be all smooth. So I want it to smooth right down to the curvature of the bottom of the tray too. So you're just gonna, and make sure like you don't have any folds of paper underneath here. That's why sometimes like saran wrap is a good idea. But this paper works really good. Now you don't want any to kind of go over the lip of the tray, or else you're gonna have, you'll have that kind of happen on your piece. So I don't want that to happen on my piece. I'm pushing down where I feel the bottom of the tray is. Really smooth all this really good. Okay, and it's not going to stick to my plastic tray underneath it because I have my paper on it. It's all lined. All right, now it's time to make some coils. I'm gonna put this over to the side and I'm gonna show you how I make some of these coils. And this is gonna be the really unique decorative piece of this. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of clay, make it into like a little log shape, and I'm gonna start to roll this from the center out. So you can see my hands are going like this and spreading that coil out. So you don't wanna just go in the center, and you don't wanna have very quick rolls, like go back and forth so that you've got some nice longer rolls. And if it gets too big, you can cut it, you can do whatever you want to it. Where you see on your coil that it looks a little thicker, that's where you're gonna put your hand and you're just kind of moving it down. I'm gonna put this one to the side, and you can make a few of these so that you have some ready to go. All right, there's a couple nice ones. Now here's a chart of different types of coils that you could make. You could do some spirals, arches, short coils where you're just kind of cutting these down in the same size, donuts, folds, just long coils that are kind of going right next to each other. You're kind of lining them up. It's the texture that it creates that is going to make something really cool on your platter. You could make twists, you could make spheres. So flattened spheres, any kind of half sphere, or just small little dots really, and kind of put them around. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of this, about that much, and I wanna actually cut about the same amount for my next one, so I know that the coils are gonna be similar, although it doesn't really matter too much for this type of thing. All right, there we go. And I'm going to just roll it up. So this clay it does have to be pretty wet clay. You can't have like really kind of dry clay, or else it's gonna be cracky around there. All right, so I'm just gonna roll that nice and tight like that, and do a couple of them. All right, I'm gonna make some dots. I really like the dots. So I'm just taking a small piece of clay and just roll. You can do something that's twisted like a braid, where you're taking two pieces and you're literally twisting them around each other like that. And that'll be a little thick, so you want some thinner pieces when you're doing something like that. Try a couple little folds. So again, I'm gonna cut this down a little bit because it's a long coil. Make it a little skinnier. And I'm gonna fold this. So this is gonna be actually a little longer. If your coil seems to get a little cracky, put a little bit of water on your fingers and just kind of go down your clay like that. And then you can do your little fold or your spiral, whatever it is. But if it's starting to crack on you, you don't want it to look like that, because actually you'll see the cracks in it. All right, these are fun little things like that. So, I got 4 on there. You can kind of see the cracks, and I just do that a little bit. So I went around the edge like this, and I cleaned up all of that. Like, I don't want this edge to be sharp, so I kind of went behind it a little bit, and then I flattened it back down. So now I can start my coils. And this is going to be the fun design part. So I've got all these coils here, and I feel like I want to do some, I really like these I like these guys. But you know, these are fun too. I don't know. Let's see. Let's start to design. This design looks pretty awesome. So I am going to now, you cannot just put these on there and expect them to stay. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick up all your pieces and you're gonna score, okay? So I wanna score both sides of this. And your pieces are gonna go on the scoring and you're just gonna kind of wiggle them in there a little bit. You should have that mucky clay on there. All right, I'm just gonna wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And that should be pretty good. Like as long as I kind of push them on there just a little bit, all right, I'm gonna be good with that. You have to make sure you have good scoring, and I want them to kind of stick up off because I got one more step that is gonna happen after this. All right, so I have to, again, I'm gonna take up these guys, put a good amount of scoring down because I've got some that's going in here too. So I'm using a fork for this, and just flip these guys over. All right, and the scoring is really, really important. Remember, this is what's keeping it on there. Otherwise, these little pieces are not going to be, they're gonna actually fall right off. Okay, so just kind of wiggle them on there. Take them all off. Get underneath, little water, little scoring, get this guy going, and wiggle him on there. Push it right down there. You don't want to push it so your design is gone, but push it right down there. Now, you can kind of see, I can see some of the scoring, and I'm going to actually touch that up, so I don't want that to be. This is a nice way to see where you have to score. If you take your needle tool and you very lightly kind of show yourself all the area that needs to be scored. But you really got to be careful doing that. So either way, if you just kind of do it or you show yourself where everything needs to be scored. Okay, now these guys are all on there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take, you can take a paper towel or you can take some sort of sponge. I've got the sponge brush and I'm going to get around all of these things. And as you know, it's nice if it has a little bit of like muddy water on it. So it kind of goes around the edges. It cleans everything up. You want it to be all one piece. So just kind of clean up all of any little crummy parts or parts that you see that are not right. If you scored a little too far, this can clean it. So you're just gonna go around the entire thing like this and clean everything up. So it can be on the coils too. You just don't want to make sure, you just don't want your coils to be smushed too much. Like you want them wiggled on there, okay? So you can still see your design. All right, I'm gonna get this part done and then get back to you. Okay, so I did that around everything. And it looks pretty good. I think that things are pretty good. They're gonna stay on there. And now I'm taking these really long coils. So you don't have to do super long coils. I just can do some long coils because I'm at a long table. But you can do separated coils for this. You're gonna go around the outside. So I have a very, very long coil that I'm gonna start with. And go there. Okay, so I'm gonna go around, and it's okay if you do smaller coils. I'm just gonna go around the outside of my piece. Now, this is the thing. You've got to go in with your fork, your scoring tool, whatever, and you are going to score up just the edge of everything. Okay, this is all going to be contained by this long coil. And it's gonna look really cool. It just brings it all together. So make sure you're doing some good scoring around the outside of this. Like it might get, you're gonna want this to stay. So make sure that you have good scoring. And you know, maybe this looks like it's a little scored up rather than having the design. You know what? It's going to be better that way. So score it up and make sure that when you put this on, it hits those scores. And then I am going to score my coil piece. So if you see, like, this is all scored on the edge. All right, and now I'm going to score my coil piece that I'm putting down. So I'm going to put a little bit of water because it has been hanging out a little bit. A little bit of water here, and then I'm going to score up just one side of this. All right, now I'm going to go around the outside of my piece here. And I'm gonna start more inconspicuous spot. Maybe I'll just start right on the edge, like the end, like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna just go around the edge and push it right against like that. So this is gonna finish off your edge. All right, I'm just gonna show you how I finish off the last little bit here of this. And okay, so I'm ending off right here, and I'm actually going to take this piece off, and I'm going to do another layer just because I think I like the look of 2 layers going around. Okay. So what I did was just kind of close everything up there. I'm pushing it down, and I'm looking to see if there's any really big gaps. Like, I want to push it towards it and, you know, hold it with both hands. Make sure that you're doing it carefully. You don't want your design to be smushed down or, you know, messed up because of the coil. Okay, now last part that I'm doing, which I could leave it like this, but I'm going to do one more layer, and then I'll show you the finishing touch, and that's it. All right, this is looking really good. Now all I really have to do, I'm going to take my sponge brush, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit and make sure that this is all together and it's nice and clean, basically. You know, I don't want any clay crumbs on it. Make sure that it's together, and I'm going to kind of look at the outside of it a little bit. Here's another way. You take a brush, a smaller brush, and if you want to get some of these pieces that kind of had a little bit of the scoring kind of went over a little bit, you can take a brush like this and go around and get that so that it's really smooth. If you have any pieces that have a little crack like that, you just take your brush and you just do that, get so that, you know, everything is nice and neat. Like right here, that's what I'm talking about, those little lines. You take your brush and you just smooth it out. And it's a smaller brush, so you can use your sponge brush for a lot of stuff, but you might need a smaller brush for these things. All you're gonna do is leave this baby out to dry to make sure all of this is really nice. You've got a really smooth center to lay things on. And, you know, like I said, you take a paper towel, and you should have done this many times by now, and just really kind of flattened out that part, and you're gonna have a really nice tray. All right, well, there it is. I think it's gonna come out beautiful. So I'm just gonna put this out to dry, and here we go. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.